Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. Well, actually, Sid Meier's Alien Crossfire expansion pack for Alpha Centauri. And I do not hesitate to note here that this is a Brian Reynolds design. In fact, by this point, having made Civilization 2, Meier himself, or possibly Meier, I think it actually is, had essentially all but retired from the design of the games. He still had something of a creative director post, but for the most part, Alpha Centauri and Alien Crossfire were the brainchild of Brian Reynolds, a truly brilliant game designer, who unfortunately didn't get the main name. He gets the primary credit because he did in effect design it, for the simple fact that Sid Meier's Civilization being quite well established, it was just good marketing sense to put the name on. Now, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri remains to this day one of my favourite ever strategy games. I've loved the Civilization games ever since their inception. The first 4X, and for those of you who don't know, and if I can remember, stands for Explore, Expand, Excel? X something or other, and Exterminate, of which Civilization was one of the great granddaddies of. I actually had CivNet, which came out after the original Civilization, and was a change of it that allowed one to play against other people online, which was a new and marvellous thing in 1996 when I got this. When I got access to a computer for the first time that wasn't just the old Sega Mega Drive. I digress. Alpha Centauri was created as a spiritual successor to the Civilization games, when after Civilization 2 they weren't sure if they'd ever be able to make any more again. And it takes off from the end of a Civilization game, because classically there were three ways to win. One was to get to the end of time, which, depending on your version of the game, was either 2100 or 2020, with the most points, the best civilization, to kill everyone else and be the sole remaining civilization on the planet, or to successfully spread humanity to the stars and launch a successful colony ship to Alpha Centauri. And this, broadly, is based on that. In the backstory of Alpha Centauri, the races of man all got together because, frankly, due to centuries of mismanagement, the Earth was dying. Resources were dwindling, and as a last shot for humanity's survival, which nobody on Earth even really believed in, the United Nations pulled together the resources of the world that it could actually manage to scramble together, and under the guardianship of Captain Garland, an American, launched the UNS Unity out to Alpha Centauri, the closest, well, technically the closest Proxima Centauri, but we'll count it, closest star system, having discovered a potentially habitable world. Now, the trip took 50 years because, Alpha Centauri is 4 light years and change away, and even at an appreciable fraction of the speed of light, that's still a cracking long time. So all of the crew went in cryostasis, due to arrive when the ship reached orbit so that they could begin the colony mission. Unfortunately, sabotage to the ship awakened the crew early, about 7 days or so before they reached before they reached the planet. So they were still able to make preparations. However, in the chaos, Captain Garland, leader of the expedition, was assassinated, and the remaining members of the crew gathered together all of the equipment and personnel still on the Unity, and escaped into 7, actually 8, but one of them is destroyed when they leave, into 7 colony pods which crash land onto the surface of Chiron, or planet as it's sometimes known, and each attempt to carve out what may well be the last instance of human civilization. And it was unique because the people of the planet weren't separated by their nationality, as in civilization. No, the people of Chiron are separated by ideology, and that's the lines upon which the 7 factions split. Now, whilst we'll be playing with the Alien Crossfire expansion, we won't be using any of the expanded, any of the additional factions unlocked, and certainly not the alien factions, thank you very much. But it does make a few changes to the game, which I think do improve the overall experience. So, without further ado, we'll be playing on the huge map of planet. We'll be playing librarian mode, I think. I certainly can't manage transcendent mode. I'm not that good an Alpha Centauri player. You may sometimes hear me refer to it as SMAC for Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, and the acronym is not unintentional. So yes, moderate difficulty, librarian. I can't even remember what standard rules are, so we're going to be playing with, let's see, nope. Blind research. We don't know exactly what we'll be researching at any given time. World map not visible. To give you a really good feel for the game, I don't personally like it, but yes, we should permit supply pods elsewhere. These are just nice little advantages here and there, and I would say Iron Man, but the game might actually crash, so I'm going to say no, we don't take Iron Man mode. Okay, so introduce ourselves to the 7 original factions. There's also the later factions and entirely randomized factions. We'll be going with the originals. So going in order then, we have Gaia's stepdaughters, led by Lady Deirdre Skye of, I think, Free Scotland. The Gaians, as you can see, are environmentalist. She was the Unity xenobiologist, and she's her faction is focused very much on preserving the ecology of Chiron. As a result, they are very good ecology. They can capture mind worms, which we'll talk more about later. They are very efficient, but morale affects your ability to, as you expect. It's a little bit of a bonus from determination and discipline in combat, and they have less police, which is to say they are less willing to put up with people brutally subjugating them in the name of order. They get a little bit of extra nutrient from fungus squares, and because of their dedication to the ideals of protecting the Earth, they may not use the free market economic model, in which the forces of capitalism are essentially let loose upon the world without concern for how it may affect the planet. We have the Hive, led by Chairman Shen Ziyang. The XO is originally from Great China. He is decidedly atheist, and also well, it's frankly a brutal police state. There's a bit of classical PRC to this. No use for democracy. He can run a fundamentalist government, but generally it's to little advantage to do so. Because of the brutal serfdom of his people and his excellent population growth, his industry is very good. If you're playing Yang, you have no shortage of minerals. But because all of his people are essentially subjugated peons, nobody's making money. Oh, and because they built all of the bases underground, they're incredibly defensible. See? Okay. There is Akhmishin Prokhor Zaharov. who was he was the chief science officer of the Unity. He was actually the star scientist of the Russian Commonwealth. The university are all about technology. They have one advantage. They are crippled in many ways, but their one advantage is technology. They've got absolutely brilliant research. When you pile all of their advantages together, they have a default of something like 90% extra knowledge research production over any other faction. They are the enlightened, godlike tech masters of planet, but you really have to focus on converting all of that technology into actual buildings and units to make use of it. And they're terrible at holding on to that technology. The probe stat is how resistant you are to people conducting covert operations, potentially just nakedly stealing everything you know and all of your money, and in some case whole bases. But they get network nodes, essentially the equivalent of libraries at every base, doubling, and half and again all of their research. They start with bonus technology, but because they are openly experimenting on their own population, they have more of what you call drones. These are the equivalent in civilization of unhappy citizens. Drones are, in this future land of Centauri, the people of the planet are sort of default into three, I'd say, castes, classes. There are drones at the bottom, the unhappy workforce who help, who run the factories and all of the drudging jobs. There's ordinary technicians, citizens, and then there are talents, people who, because of better opportunities or sometimes outright genetic manipulation, are better in just a little bit way at everything. They are the elite of the world. And drones you can deal with by either producing enough talents to negate the civil unrest aspect by creating recreational facilities to pacify them, or by brutally subjugating them with police. All good ways around it. We have CEO Nwabudike Morgan, who Morgan Industries is my personal favourite faction. It's who we will be playing.
Human behavior is economic behavior. The particulars may...
Morgan is the classical megacorporation of cyberpunk. They're all about profit, they're all about luxury and exploitation. For this reason, they can't use planned economics. There's no such thing. Oh yes, incidentally, I forgot to mention, but the university can't use fundamentalist policies. They're not actually, not sure they're as openly atheist in the way the Hive is, but they're not given to religious mania. Now, Morgan can't use planned economics. There's no such thing as careful planning ahead. Either it's naked capitalism or some conservation of resources. As a result of this, of all of their activities, Morgan actually has some pretty major disadvantages, which can be made worse by the social engineering choices you pick. They can't support large armies, and their bases to start with are actually hamstringed until you research the necessary technology for hab complexes, which normally allow bases to exceed size 7. They cannot exceed size 4, and this is a big limitation because you can't produce specialists other than doctors at bases below size 5. So they are out and out restricted from creating specialists until they pass that limitation. Now that limitation also comes at pretty much the same time as one researches the social engineering policy they really thrive from, free market. So everything about Morgan's early game strategy is gearing towards getting that. But yes, they get a little bit of extra money from trade treaties. It's good for Morgan to be friends with people, and they get and they start with just a little bit of extra energy to start them off, which is just as a nice little bonus to turn advantage, which is something we may get into a bit later. The Spartan Federation, led by
superior training and superior weaponry
by Colonel Corazon Santiago.
Superior training and superior weaponry.
As you might have guessed from Spartans, these are a bunch of gun nuts, but perhaps more diplomatically, they do not believe in the excesses of modern day life. They believe that this planet is a harsh and unforgiving place, and they should be harsh and unforgiving in return. So they start out, the tech which they start out with, actually, mobility, starts them off with recon rovers, or the chassis for essentially cars, which is an excellent position for them because in this game, because I've activated pod popping, supply pods from the Unity, so they're going to get a huge start with that, which is one of the reasons I'm leery about doing it for the most part. They are not interested in wealth, so they don't get the advantages from that, but they have some lovely other advantages. They have the best morale in the game. If you don't have advantage in numbers, which Yang may, or in technology, which Zakharov may, the Spartans will win an even fight every single time. Well, or unless you have the attack that the Conclave do, Miriam's lot, which we'll get to in a moment. The Spartans will win every single time because of this day-to-day discipline. They are actually really they're relatively okay with being brutally suppressed by their own police forces. So you don't need to necessarily waste a lot of money on creature comforts for them. However, all of this does really rack down the amount of minerals they have and their productivity. But on the flip side, prototype units, which normally cost like 2 or 3 times the cost of a normal unit, are not an issue for them. They can roll off new weapons right out of the production line. The Lord's Believers, or the Conclave as they're sometimes referred to in the fluff in these techs tree, take advances. There was obviously some sort of change at the last moment. These are led by Sister Miriam Godwinson. You will learn to hate this psycho bitch the way I do. Miriam's followers are, well, they're something of a pastiche of the religious fundamentalist. They are, incredibly suspicious of technology. They can't even do any research for the first 10 turns of the game, which which may or may not be a heavy disadvantage, depending. And they tend to produce more pollution than others might as well. So they tend to be, they tend to have poor, not much in the way of technology. But, and they certainly can't take knowledge value in social engineering, but these guys were made for what we call the momentum strategy of strategy gaming, where you build up a quick force and then send them out to conquer as many people as possible before they manage to build up enough technology and infrastructure to murder the crap out of you. Miriam, so long as she's on the attack, gets a plus 25% bonus to attack strength, which is massive in this game. That is equal to the bonus the Spartans get from their morale. And so with Miriam, the best defense is brutal offense. She, because of the huge support value she has, she can produce masses of cheap, perhaps technologically backward troops, but which are made up by their fervent assaults value, to just mob you. Oh, and she also has probe. When Miriam undertakes her favourite social engineering value, fundamentalism, that +1 probe, which makes it harder to steal technology from her, and also makes it easier for her to do the same, goes up to +3. At +3 probe, you are unassailable. No one can steal your cities, no one can steal technology or convert your people. So you can't, and you also become godlike at doing that with us. So Miriam is incredibly frustrating because she's hyper-aggressive. The artificial intelligence for her is as well. She's hyper-aggressive. She's got tons of units. She easily comes back from even the smallest, even the smallest bit of mercy you give her, and she's impossible to turn. And finally, we have what may be the only good guys. And even then, Lal gets a little creepy in places. Commissioner Pravin Lal, the ship's surgeon, is the only member of the command crew to still stick to the mission statement of the UNS Unity, a world of peace and democracy and learning and generally the betterment of all mankind. So, as a result of this, of the intense bureaucracy they produce, they're not terribly efficient, but they have the inverse of the university's problem. Every 4 citizens, they actually gain an additional talent, making it really easy for them to control drones, and in fact to have just generally quite populous indeed, and satisfied populations. And because they can, unlike in inverse to Morgan, whose bases can't exceed size 4, Lal's bases can go up to 9 without using a hub complex. So they're one of the few factions who can really employ what I'd call a thick or tall expansion strategy, which I'll get into later. The only thing he can't use is brutal police state ideology, and frankly that really just fits in with all the strategies you might want to use for him. Lal is kind of the baseline. I'd say if the 2 baseline factions, it's Lal and Santiago, it's peacekeepers and Spartans. We're not going to be playing the baseline factions. We're going to be playing the elite builder faction of Morgan Industries.
Human behavior is economic behavior. The particulars may vary, but competition for limited resources remains a constant. Need as well as greed have followed us to the stars, and the rewards of wealth still await those wise enough to recognize this deep thrumming of our common pulse. CEO Nwabudike Morgan, the Centauri Monopoly.
Morgan, a new era of struggle and opportunity awaits you. The UN starship Unity has arrived in the Alpha Centauri system after a 40-year voyage. All contact with Earth has been lost. After Captain Garland's assassination by an unknown assailant, the crew mutinied and split into factions. In the ensuing conflict, some seized control of the Unity's colony pods. You now shape the destiny of your Morganic faction, which has just made planetfall! Okay, and this party has now started. We could be literally anywhere in this world. But yes, our first base, Morgan Industries. Okay, we don't start with a bonus colony pod. Sometimes you do, but we're in good we're in a good position to pop some of these goodie pods. Now, first things first. Let's not waste our time on a scout patrol. Can we? How long is it going to be? Okay, colony pod, 12 turns. Growth, 10 turns. Yeah. In the early stage of the game, it's well worth putting resources into expanding the number of bases you have. Efficiency will eventually lead you to start taking unrest penalties for having too many build. Oh yeah, because we're on blind research, we can't actually pick what our next research goal will be. We have to pick the broad direction in which we're heading, infrastructure and money. Money, money, money. Morgan's only advantage is money, and it is a massive advantage when you can build it up enough.
Energy resources.
And appropriately enough. we've actually gained 10 energy. That was not actually that. Oh no, I see. It's actually unlocked. It's actually created an energy little resource token. Oh, that's great. I mean, we're not really using it right now, but oh, could we do it? Yeah, that's just a straight up advantage. Oh, fantastic. Right, so that's going to give us just a little bit of an advantage in research, a little bit of extra money. That's great in every way. Also, I think my turn's complete, so let's just set that up.
Recovered.
It's not an artifact. Take to a base containing a network node for further study.
Turn complete.
Excellent. That, in the fullness of time, will allow us to potentially research an extra technology, I believe. Okay, so everything is back on the old grid. No hexes here. Similarly, yeah, this is. I just want to send that out pod popping, but no. That has got to. Is it hold or fortify? Action. Hold. Yes, it's hold. Can't remember what the terms are in this game. But yes, we're going to get a little bit more.
Planet's atmosphere, though a gasping death to humans and most animals, is paradise for earth plants. The high nitrate content of the soil and the rich yellow sunlight bring an abundant harvest wherever adjustments can be made for the unusual soil conditions. Lady Deidre Sky, the comparative biology of planet.
Excellent. This is our first technology. It is the best opening technology you can get. I mean, never mind that it increases nutrient production and fungus squares. We're Morgan. We're never going to be harvesting fungus squares. It's just not going to work out for us. But it gets us the most useful, I would say yes, the singularly most useful unit you'll have in the game. The Former. Formers allow you to change the world. You can plant forests, which are a great sort of mid-game resource. We'll talk about when to build them. You can build roads. Roads are so useful. Mines for more minerals, solar collectors for more energy. Hell, you can actually change the terrain. One of the lovely parts, although there's not much in the way of diverse terrain, at least the level you'd expect from the Civilization games, there is some terrain diversity. What Alpha Centauri has is a very dynamic geography. We'll talk more about it as it comes. But yes, Centauri ecology. Finding adequate sources of nutrients, energy and minerals is the most immediate problem facing the colonists after planetfall. An understanding of the basics of Centauri ecology provides the new arrivals with the tools they need to begin shaping the world around them. How plants grow, what geological structures exist, and how natural energy sources may be exploited on planet. Now, yes, continue. We, oh nice, we discovered the first technology. That's a lovely little plus. We probably going to start making formers like after our second or third colony pod, I'd say. For a quick note, how many units can we support free? We can support one free unit per base because we have reduced support technology. Fine. Oh, and as a nice little note, because we're Morgan, we get one additional energy per base. That is actually really nice. I mean, with a little improvement in economy, we'll get one energy per square, but one energy per base is a really nice advantage in the early game, and we are going to milk that for everything it's worth, actually. Yes, pods. Monoliths. Yes, I think investigate. Da-da-da. Investigating monoliths enhances your unit to discipline stasis. Monoliths are nice. They just make your units just a little bit stronger. They're also a lovely source of all sorts of resources. We should probably go down this river a little. Okay. Another monolith. Oh, but we've already been enhanced, so we don't get the bonus. Another monolith. Rivers, you may have noticed, allow for increased movement. It's a nice little touch.
Production complete.
Right, so we have our first colony, well, our second colony pod, if you count the original one. One where we just crashed to the surface of planet and started trying to eke out a living on it. So, where can we produce our second city? So here's the thing. If you, all of these red squares, which are helpfully on, indicate the expanses of the city. These are all the tiles that it can work. I'm not terribly interested in all of those tiles getting worked. We can afford to overlap a little bit. The ideal spacing for cities of this sort. How many ways? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. The ideal spacing for cities is actually about 3 tiles, because roads split movement by 3, so it allows you to create a sort of rough support network, as it were, between cities. Yeah, okay. Let's go send him here then. It's a nice space. There's, ample food, resources. We can work with it. Okay.
If you can discover a better way of life than office holding for your future rulers, a well-governed city becomes a possibility. For only in such a state will those rule who are truly rich, not in gold, but in the wealth that makes happiness, a good and wise life. Plato, The Republic, Data Links.
The overcrowding aboard the Unity following the premature wake-up caused terrible conditions for the crew, but also generated valuable data concerning humans under extreme environmental stresses. Analysis of this data provides the first comprehensive mathematical insight into the social psychology of humans, and it unlocks the Rec Commons, which is our first drone dealing improvement. This little yellow line represents the outside limit of what territory we can realistically claim. Morgan Collections, yes, why not? Okay, we produced our first base. Chairman Yang produced his first base in 2105, which the short time of which leads me to believe he probably began with the second colony pod. Okay, so because we've not horribly degraded our support, which we can do later, we start with some little bonus minerals, which could allow us to produce synth metal sentinels. There are you can see these little markings, 1, 2, 1, as opposed to the 1, 1, 1 in the Scout Patrol. This indicates attack, defense, movement. This synth metal armor produces an excellent, what's the word I'm looking for? Defensive advantage. It's great for a garrison unit, but garrison units aren't too useful right now. So we're going to put our resources into expanding our reach further, hence the colony pod. So that will be done just after the second population point, meaning we don't have to just deconstruct the city, which is excellent. We'll be able to move on. Okay. Notice the difference in movement costs moving on to fungus versus around it. We don't necessarily want to move on to fungus too much because it might result in an unpleasant incident.
Resources.
Oh. Huh. Lovely. That produced some nice nutrient resources and also caused an earthquake.
Not recovered.
Ah!
Turn complete.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, what is that? Fungal Tower of Unknown. Fantastic. So it's unleashed a bunch of fungus. We are going to have to clear that out manually, which is not great. Also, we have a fungal tower. I don't know if we can risk attacking it. We'll give it a shot. It's stronger because it's on fungus, of course, and I think it will continue to spawn more xenofungus and what we like to call mindworms. We'll get onto mindworms when we find them. This, although much of the life on the planet does appear to be green plant life analogous to that on Earth. This sort of reddish fungus present throughout Chiron is very unique to it, and it's consists of these tubes, as I say, tubes of reddish fungus that appear to be present all over Chiron, and which are decidedly anathema to human life. We don't want to be screwing with it. I suppose if it will give me an idea of my I used the wrong button. Of my chances? No. It might be best to leave this one be. Yeah, no. Not whilst it's my only scouting unit.
Turn complete.
Sometimes it won't move if it's 3.
Turn complete.
Monolith. Lovely. And it won't move either. Okay. So, good news is we should have another couple of colony pods coming any moment. I'm not 100% certain where we're going to send them. Probably one here, one here. It kind of violates my rule of 3 a bit, but coastal cities are nice, and it's in good sort of areas. They've got the monoliths to support them. Yeah, I think we're going to expand along this coast a bit. All right then.
Turn complete.
Yes.
Production complete.
First colony pod then.
Pod recovered.
Oh, lovely. 25 energy credits. Okay, so if that one's going there, that one probably put that one straight there. Or over here. If I put that one there, one here, one there. Nah, I'll probably stay with that. Well, if that's going on to 3. No, okay, yeah, I'll do. It's going to be a bit tight, but we can work with it.
We hold life to be sacred, but we also know the foundation of life consists of a stream of codes, not so different from the successive frames of a watchlet. Why then cannot we cut one code short here and start another there? Is life so fragile that it can withstand no tempering? Does the sacred brook no improvement? Chairman Shen Jiyang, Dynamics of Mind.
The alien environment on planet brought a host of unforeseen health problems for the colonists. Early inquiries into biogenetics centre on the prevention and treatment of these problems. Researchers in this discipline seek an understanding of the entire genetic code. Okay, so we started these guys working on a new colony pod. That's not too... we want to continue developing colony pods, but there are more useful things we can produce. So we're going to start these on formers. Now, with the current level of production, we can expect a new former in 9 turns. That's not useful to us. But in 1, 2, 3, 4 turns, that will have produced its first line of nutrients, of minerals. Once the first line, at the moment, if we were to hurry this using money, it would cost 96. That's not viable for us right now. But if we wait 4 turns, yes, then it will become significantly cheaper. As a general rule, I like to follow the pattern of 2 colony pods from each city, and then you start producing some formers. Okay, so where are we? We're going 1. I could have done around that way actually. So Bill Morgan Studios. Actually, I feel like Morgan Fishery. There are creatures analogous to fish, and we know the drill. 7 turns, that's not really ideal. So, let's make another use of it. That I can start on immediately.
Request
So,
confirmation.
25, we can start with that. Then we can build the colony pod in 10 turns. It's nearly right. We might be able to hold it a turn, I'm not sure. No, that should complete just about the right time. Okay.
Turn complete.
So yes, that will allow us to speed things up a bit. How are we doing there? 3 more turns. I've wasted 27 turns without really speeding things along, but I think with the colony pods I was limited in that front. Yeah, similarly that will extend accordingly. And we can probably speed the colony pod here along a bit with money as well. Now, the reason we're looking to buy things, as we have here, is that this gets us things out faster. It's called turn advantage. You also might notice that in the rankings we are currently the wealthiest, but if we look at the graph, we're quite solidly in the middle. Okay. These things. Spore launchers. These are creations of the manifestations of the fungus that launch toxic fungal spores on your units and causing some damage, but what they really do is they screw up your terrain improvements such as farms and roads. They are the artillery of native life form. And they can blooming well go away. You've noticed we've received a promotion. That's our people getting just that little bit more as I say, hardened. They're more disciplined. They've got more morale, which is very useful because when you're fighting native units don't actually fight you with conventional weapons. The point is that native units, as we'll discover with mineworms, are really easy to kill, but they have psychic attacks which stop you wanting to murder them. So what you need to do is be disciplined enough to actually kill them properly. No, left mouse button, not right. Okay, so we can start with some roads there. It's a nice sort of opening move. We can actually, if we really want, move our unit onto that monolith and it will heal it. But too many heals with a monolith will actually cause them to disappear. That said though, it's the way of holding things for a rainy day. If you never actually use them at all, you might as well have not had them. So,
Terraform complete.
Normally the arcane technology of a monolith would heal my units. Oh well. I think we are otherwise ready. Okay, we can hurry this along.
Confirmation.
Costs 52 energy credits, still less than it otherwise could. And then after that, we'll start on formers. Now, with our current social engineering settings, we are not...
Production complete.
Where we can support 1 unit free each city, which is a nice little advantage. Okay, so if that's going there, then yes, this one will go to here. Boom. A little awkward passing that, but it won't actively attack us. Okay, so that's took 2 turns to build because it's on a little, it's on a rolling terrain. We're going to expand accordingly. Build Morgan distribution. Yeah, okay. 1, and again, we know the drill.
Request confirmation.
Okay, a lot more formers. Delete. Colony pod.
Indigenous life forms.
Oh dear. Spore launchers. Not good. Those fellows can actually move back a moment. It's not ideal for us to fight those. Well, for one thing, colony pods are actually completely unarmed, so they can't fight.
Terraforming complete.
When that happens, might as well use it as a temporary scout unit. Why not? You can see we're expanding our road network here. Units are okay. Come on, yes, we've just managed that. So this guy, we're actually going to move back into the Morgan collection there. See how I said it's rolling, so it takes 2 turns? Well, you can use both your terraformers at once, and it actually speeds the whole process up a bit. Right, let's try that again, shall we? Okay. These guys actually would probably do with improving that. So let's make them do it. Why not? Check formers. Okay.
Request confirmation.
That's that. You can see why it's so useful for. Oh no, we're not even top of wealth anymore. Why it's so useful for us to be able to produce energy, and we're producing 6 extra stored energy a turn. Currency in this setting, rather than using gold or fiat currencies, uses as a medium of exchange energy credits. It's essentially a representation of stored energy, whether it's in the form of geothermal, solar, nuclear, or just plain old fossil fuels. It's their ability to affect change. Okay, so let's make these farms.
Production complete.
Okay. This guy, if I leave him, will heal on his own. Now the nice thing about farms is you can build them alongside another type of improvement. Mines improve minerals, although they actually also reduce the amount of nutrients, because open cast mining somewhat impacts your ability to farm. But without too much ecological impact, we can produce solar power plants, just old solar cells. Now solar cells produce more energy depending on altitude. You see the elevation here is 1,834 meters above sea level. You can actually raise the terrain with the right technology to create higher altitudes and make solar farms. But it's high enough to get 2 energy per turn out of it, which is also the cap at this early stage. You need to research certain technologies to be able to produce more than a certain amount of nutrients, minerals, and energy per turn on unless of course they're on one of these bonus tiles. So for instance, until we reach can't remember exactly what the technology is, the one where we get research hospitals, we can't produce more than 2 nutrients on a tile unless it's on a nutrient tile. Okay, so what's this fella doing? He's building a solar plant. Delay production. We were one turn off on Morgan Fishery, but that's okay. This guy, as you can see, he's healed some. We're going to keep leaving him in place a little bit longer. And you see it takes 5 turns to build that solar collector. Speed is up just a little bit with 3 guys working on it at once. Oh yes, of course, that's problematic, isn't it?
Terraform.
Scientific theories are judged by the coherence they lend to our natural experience and the simplicity with which they do so. The grand principle of the heavens balances on the razor's edge of truth. Commissioner Pravin Lal, A History of Science.
The colonists must create new tools from the wreckage of the Unity to survive and expand. Early inquiries into applied physics emphasise this adaptation of existing technology for the new environment. So this allows us to produce units with lasers. Fundamentally, this isn't even creating weapons, it's taking the Unity's laser hardware tools for cutting and annealing things and just mounting them on guns, on gun frames, would you call them? I don't really know. Stocks, probably. But yes, this isn't directly linked to the building technologies we're after. When you can set the general direction for your research, but it won't always pick the technology you want on blind research. If we were doing non-blind, I would, for instance, be pigeonholing towards the technology that allows us to produce HAB complexes and get over some of our limitations. Okay, so delay production. Really? Oh, fishery. I see. It's just done it there. That's fine. How many has it created in the past? Probably 1. Still, oh, I completely forgot about this fellow, didn't I? Right, well, after that, we can have him produce I'd say probably... No, we need a defender, so we'll do the scout patrol. And then recycling tanks. And 11th credit. It's still worth saving one turn. Turn advantage is the idea that every time that all of your... is a question of relative advantage. Everything moment you save, that you can save by buying a unit instead of building it, is one just little bit of an extra advantage you have on your enemy. By buying my formers when they're halfway built, instead of building them all the way, I save 5 turns of production that I can use on colony pods, on building more formers. In general, just on getting just that little bit of an extra edge any way I can. And again, yeah, so we're going to set these in advance and continue to just build up all the advantages we can. Okay, so here we're going to use the former to... Oh, I see, it's produced a little bit of extra energy. That's being collected by this fellow, and the energy is getting funneled back to us. And we should see that in the form of increased energy stockpiling. Lovely. So, where would be next be best? Well, where next would be best indeed. We might want to start with that fellow. Yeah, that can do with improving. Okay, up to 10%. Let's go back to the explorer. Oh, for crying out loud. Honestly, I cannot... Ugh, the life of me. Right. Build a road, doesn't hurt. Okay, so based on where we are, the ideal place would be basically there. Can we build something there? Not yet, really, can we? Alright, well, we will travel blind a bit, head there, see if we can do better. And I think probably clear that for later. Or help that guy out then. Clear fungus. That guy clear fungus. Oh, for crying out loud, he's gotten a promotion as well. This is just not very pleasant, is it? This whole business.
Terraform.
Ah, you see? They just take advantage. They take tapping liberties, they do. Oh, now the arcane technology of our unit, of the monolith has repaired our unit, has it? Bloody...
Terraform complete.
Right then, mate. Oh, really? You're going to have to go this way. I can't get closer because you won't. Zone of control. If you're next to another unit, if you're next to a unit, you can't move from one tile that's covered adjacent to the unit to another tile adjacent to the unit, and you can't move from that tile into one control by another unit. So I can't do that move either. I got to do this whole elaborate... I've either got to try and kill this fellow, which I can assure you is not going to happen, or I have to take this whole laborious route round. Laborious route it is then. Well, that's cleared. Rolling and raining, lovely.
Terraform complete.
And this, mate, we can clear up ourselves. Okay, so what's more useful here? What's more useful here will be clearing up some of that, but we'll get to that. Oh,
Production complete.
First civilization to discover secrets of the human brain gets a bonus technology, which is just lovely. Yippity-doo-dah, yippity-day. Ugh, and again, zone of control. Oh, I'm
Request confirmation.
getting distracted. Got to keep your eye on the ball with these, haven't you? Ugh. If it's not one thing, it's another. Okay. What about this? What's useful, but frankly at this point I think we might be better served with some decent scout patrols.
Request
And yes,
confirmation.
still worth getting them out there, even if we can't necessarily do anything with them yet. Oh, damn you. Right, you've gone there. Morgan Robotics. Why not? Okay. Standard policy then. I think given how close to the fungus we are, we might do that as well. And go from there.
Request confirmation.
We're actually maintaining fairly good energy parity. And you know, would overall, apart from the frustrations we're having to deal with all of these fellows over here, I would say by and large we're in an alright place. It could certainly be better, it's true, but it could also certainly be worse. Okay. Let's... You know what? No. Let's go send this fellow over here.
Production complete.
Okay. So, if I move this fellow to here, it won't do a cursed thing, will it? No, that would be too easy. One thing I can do is increase the amount of road coverage we've got. Just improve things in little ways. Okay, so build me a road, damn it.
Terraforming complete.
Oh, sweet merciful Lord. Right, so that's... Can we build anything there? No, it's rocky, we can't build on it. So the ideal places to build would be here, and probably here, right next to the bloody... right next to the bloody artillery, of course it would be. Of course it would be. Okay. Okay. Artillery. Artillery creature it is.
Improvement destroyed.
Oh, it's getting bigger. It's actually getting bigger. Wonderful. Fucking artillery. Fucking spore artillery. Fucking spore artillery.
Terraform complete.
Oh. I will end you, mate. I will. Okay, so first things first.
Terraform complete.
Well, that's something, isn't it? Okay, so have this. Now, the key to destroying these, which we will need to do, is that fungal towers are made stronger by the amount of fungus surrounding them. So, the best way to get rid of them is actually with these fellows. It's also very frustrating. They can't directly attack, but they really can get in your way. That's just as good at times. Okay, fine. So, 1, 2. We've got some very tight areas here, but we'll do what we can. Okay, so there.
Bot recovered.
Oh, lovely.
Production complete.
Right. Okay, so continue walking about. Well, got a little bit of extra scouting. Lovely. And now for the moment of truth. Can our scout patrol even deal with these now that they're strengthened? Okay, yes they can. Excellent. And the veteran. Veteran is fantastic. Veteran is just a little bit of extra joy for us. Okay. Yeah, we're just going to want every advantage we can on these, so those will eventually get solared. But right now, we should be... Yeah, right now roads are our single best advantage we can get. What could we do? Yeah, Nope, solars. I mean, what are people actually using right now? Using these. Okay, so let's build up our ancillary areas. A couple of extra solar panels here. Just build things up. Morgan Interstellar. Yeah, why not? It's a fancy name. Actually, don't forget Morgan Interstellar. Morgan Hard 1. Perhaps not ideal for the propaganda team, but nevertheless I feel it's somewhat worthwhile. Date. Scout patrol, colony pod, recycling tanks. Bloody.
Production complete.
Okay. Exploration. Joys of exploration. Oh, my jaw is tight. That's how frustrating this bloody thing is. Okay, Arcane Technology has repaired our unit. Lovely. This is actually our best chance of destroying that. So we want it in good shape.
Our first challenge is to create an entire economic infrastructure from top to bottom out of whole cloth. No gradual evolution from previous economic systems is possible because there is no previous economic system. Each interdependent piece must be materialized simultaneously and in perfect working order. Otherwise, the system will crash out before it ever gets off the ground. CEO Nwabudike Morgan, the Centauri Monopoly.
Each early industry on the planet centered on the creation of a frontier industrial base. We started with that technology, so we haven't seen the splash for it. Featuring primitive assembly lines and simple currency instruments. Soon, leaders in the financial sectors push for a more comprehensive industrial economics policy to accommodate free trade and other strategies for multiplying capital. This allows us the energy bank, essentially the equivalent of the market in civilization. A little bit of extra energy, a little bit more bang for our buck, which is very useful, although there is actually a secret project that allows us to get one in every city free, so not too much expenditure on those. But the big advantage of industrial economics, well, two advantages. One is it leads to industrial automation, which gets us the Hab complex, amongst other things. Two, it leads us to free market. Free market looks like it should be a terrible, terrible choice. Free market economics turns market forces loose in your society. Unfettered market economics can produce great wealth quickly, but in the context of planet's fragile emerging economies, can also lead to extremes of pollution and ecological damage. Also, citizens rendered suddenly poor by the actions of unscrupulous moguls may revolt against their energy-fattened masters. So you may notice the massive -5 police. At -5 police, every military unit we send away out of our territory, so beyond our yellow borders, causes double drains. We actually want to pull in our explorers a little bit if we're going to use this. We only want to send our initial first scout unit out because that's not actually tied to any particular base, so it won't cause unrest. Police, yeah, this sort of minus effect in police just makes it impossible for us to use police full stop, and really causes problems if we declare war. It can be dealt with. You just need good drone control, although you can't use police, so you've got to either so you essentially either got to use things like rec commons or make your other people very happy. -3 planet. So less production in fungal squares, but we were never going to use those, being Morgan. More importantly, we produce a ton of pollution. We produce like ungodlike amounts of pollution. to the point where it will really piss off planets' sleeping ecology for us to be working. But, and all this for a lousy 2 economy? Well, economy isn't really balanced like the other stats in this game. At 1 economy, which we have, it's 1 energy every base. This is actually a massive step, and it means that we actually can do without running market. We'll still have an advantage over everyone else. But the real advantage of market is at +3, we get +1 energy every single square. So every unit population we have across our entire empire is going to produce energy for us. Which means that we are going to be stinking, filthy rich. Not just yet. Let me see. Do you have anyone outside the barrier, the limits of our borders? No, we do not. Okay. Let us call down the wrath of planet and invoke the free market. The free market's a little difficult because on this difficulty level, I think as soon as we get to 4 population, we're going to start seeing drones. So we may have to start funneling some of our hard-earned energy credits away from research, away from stock, the treasury, and into psych, which is a mixture of bread and circuses and actual healthcare and other things which are good for the will of the people. Also, you notice we're moving our economics from very simple, in which we don't really have any advanced economics techniques in place, to the naked freedom of the free market. Okay, so such a drastic change in our society will cost 24 energy credits to effect. This is incredibly creepy, by the way. We're engaging in a large-scale, not just a propaganda campaign, although there is one, but in a retooling of our entire infrastructure, of our government, to support the ideals of libertarianism. Let's hope it's worth it. Net income 17, breakthroughs 7 turns. Still net income 17, still breakthroughs 7 turns, but okay, doesn't seem like much now, but that is going to build up. I think next turn we're going to see the benefits. That said though, that one's more of an industry, so we might want to keep out of its way a bit. And that can wait there until we're ready.
Complete.
That one can go exploring beyond the borders. Not that we're going to need too much of that. The plan is just to expand straight into them. Still, that guy... Yeah, we're using these actually for scouting, but we're going to have to pull them back soon and use them for defense.
Terraform complete.
And we are making 18 a turn, 7 turns. It doesn't seem like much. I think that is actually a big change compared to what it otherwise would be. I might have actually already had the advantages. Let me just check what happens if we... Yeah, okay, we actually went up from 11, breakthroughs 11 turns, to 18, 7 turns. So yeah, no, that was an increase of like, what, 60%? That's big. We're doing... That's actually really nice. And I think, actually, this is where I have to leave you. We've increased our standing a little bit, we're doing a little bit better than average. We don't actually rank as the highest technology, the most military able, the most populous, that's usually Miriam, the wealthiest, or even those with the largest territory. We're actually quite compact. And we're certainly not doing the best overall. But we are stable, we have, what, 6 colony outposts. We have quite a booming economy, everything is in a nice, stable position for the first 50 turns of play. I could have done a little better. I think I could have forced some things a little earlier. I think I've been maybe letting go on the rush buying.
Request confirmation.
I think we can definitely afford to spend money on that. Speed up recycling tanks. Recycling tanks are lovely. They, amongst other things, they let us... we might want to look into more colony pods soon, actually, as well. But recycling tanks are lovely. They give you just one of... In a city, they give you a little bit... one extra nutrient, minerals, and energy, which is just a nice little overall bonus. It's after formers and colony pods and basic security, they're definitely on the list to be making. But yeah, I think I'm going to call this here.
Please don't go. The drones need you. They look up to you.
Okay, that is intensely creepy, and about 1 in 5 times you try to quit, that will happen. The game actually guilts you into playing more. There we go. So let's play Morgan. Okay, and with that, noble ladies and sirs, I leave you for the evening, and I wish you a very entertaining time, and we shall return anon, especially when we get this colony pod there. No, that's done next turn anyway. We shall return anon for further expansion and indulgence in ruthless capitalism. Farewell.